So this week with Bart, we're going to discuss geomancy. If you don't know what geomancy is, it's a system of divination based upon the earth. And there are 16 symbols. And basically they're a bit like I Ching symbols. So there's 4 lines and they can have an odd or an even number. And it's very ancient. It's used by the Arabs in many cases. And it's also a system of divination across Africa. And it's often known by the Arabic names. And it's also used a lot in medieval astrology, because it's a bit like I Ching, where you pick random yarrow stalks and you count through them to give an odd or an even number. And it's called squilling in geomancy, where you have a sheet of a plate of sand, and you randomly put dots on them in a lines, and you count them up. You need 16 lines, and you count them up, and if an odd or an even number, it creates a line or a break in a line, and then that generates the 4 symbols. Isn't that right, Bart?
Yes, it is.
Hello, yes. Bart, how are you?
I am fine. How are you, Paul?
Good.
I'm gutted, eh? I'm gutted.
Sorry?
I'm gutted. The English are doing better at football than the Belgians.
Naturally. I mean, why would it not be any other way? Yeah. Football's coming home on Sunday.
They said it, but you're going to cut this out anyway. I know you will.
Well, this bit isn't rude, so we might just keep it in, actually.
I can't help but noticing, even when you describe geomancy, you make it sound like I Ching.
It's the same thing. It's the number of permutations of odd and even numbers in groups of 4. With the I Ching, it's groups of 3, and there's 8 permutations of the group of 3. But in this system, it's really two doubled up, and so you have the four lines, and that generates, then 4 by 4 is 16. So you can play some number games with this. 4 is a number of stability, and it's the first number that creates a solid. Before that, you have a line, a dot, and a line, and a triangle, and then the 4th one. So this is also a chesed on the Kabbalistic tree of life, just below the abyss. And it's also relates to Jupiter.
The Emperor.
The Emperor. The Emperor. Jupiter?
No, 4.
Oh, yeah. Well, God, yeah, that's making life really complicated. So there's 4 times 4 is 16. And that, you might think, because of tarot, there's 16 court cards, but it doesn't work like that. One of the reasons is that in astrological terms, the court cards are 10 degrees off. So it starts at 10 degrees of the sign rather than 0 degrees. And also the actual astrological symbols, attributions for the 16 geomantic symbols is the 12 signs of the zodiac. And that leaves you 4 left over. So what happens is that you have to double up, so that the Fortuna Major is related to the sun. So it's the sun, and it's also Leo. And there's a lot of these things go on. So basically it's more around the signs of the zodiac with their associated rulers. So it's not the court cards. But we also have Jupiter as a 4 by 4. And so the number 16 actually relates to the Tower card, doesn't it? Yes,
16.
16.
Tower.
It's the Tower, yes. Yeah?
What?
So it's a strange sort of thing that's going on here. And you can also reverse 16 to make 61. And 61 is the number of the N, or the N Sof, in the Kabbalistic tree of life, at the top of the supernal triangle, the veils, the negative veils. So you're actually uniting, in one sense, Keter in Malkut as well. Now, of course, the Kabbalistic tree of life and its attributions weren't that well known, particularly in medieval times when we have this system. But it's a very powerful system of magic and divination. You can do magic with it and you can divine with it. Now, there's a particular system that is used for this, because what happens is you use the I think is the top row of the four. You basically create four geomantic symbols. You take the top row and create another geomantic symbol, and you work your way down. They're the mothers, and then you also create the nephews and the nieces. You see, the daughters and the nieces, basically, and they also have two other symbols that come out of this called the witnesses. And we have this, they're often shown up as a kind of a shield with it starting the cross, the outer cross, and then it works down into one sort of card, the judge. There's the witnesses, the left witness, the right witness, and the judge. So it's a very mechanical system for generating the geomantic symbols. So they can also use it in astrology, and we're used to the circular system of the zodiac, okay, where the ascendant is on the east, on the left-hand side. With geomancy, you actually do it, it's more of a rectangle with lines going across and creates a diamond, and you put the geomantic symbols in each quadrant, in each sort of section. So there'll be 12 of them.
You will probably share an image of that, eh?
Yes.
I remember when I made a translation of the grimoire of Pope Honorius, there were also some magic circles and some sigils you could make. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was one in there that had a very similar square and the same pattern in it. Yeah. So that's something that reoccurs. Yeah.
I mean, what you do, you see, because they didn't have the ephemerises and all that sort of stuff, and he's done it, is it? They're literally, by just doing these dots and creating the symbols, they would put them in the different parts of the zodiac. So it wouldn't go from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. It can be all over the place. Okay.
Hey, but how did they do it?
Well, you relate it to the houses and the signs of the zodiac as well. So the houses are constant. You put them in the order, but you put the symbols in the order that you find them and generate them, you see.
Yes, but I mean, because when I read about it, geomancy, earth divination. Yeah. So some say they threw some pebbles.
You can do that sand. Too.
Some said they were like fiddling with a stick on the ground and making dots. Yeah. How exactly, practically, was how did they do it? If I want to do geomancy, what do I need?
Well, that's what you do. You could just get a pen and put some dots. You have to do 16 lines of dots. You just sort of close your eyes and and then you go back and count the number of dots on each line. And if it's an odd or an even number, that's what you're looking for. It's all a binary system. Tarot is a binary system. The I Ching is a binary system. The trigrammatons that Crowley developed, the 3 lines, but you can have a male, female, and neutral kind of thing. It's all mathematical. And one of the quirks is, I think, the way the mathematics works is that the witnesses, the left and the right hand witness, they can only be a certain number of the geomantic symbols just because the way the system works. So you see, so you're actually reducing the number of things that it can come down to. We're not going to really. This video is not about going through the individual geomantic symbols and what they are. This is more to sort of give an overview. So one of the other things is that they also had the lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, in there, which is the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. The dragon's head is a line of clock with 3 dots, and the dragon's tail is the opposite, which is 3 dots and a line at the bottom.
Yeah, but the dragon's tail is supposed to be bad news, eh?
Yes, it is. Yeah, they're the lunar nodes. And one symbol in particular, Rubeus, is the tradition is that if Rubeus is in the first house, you destroy the divination. You don't actually continue with that divination at the moment. It's a very bad sign. And Crowley actually references this in the book of Thoth, you see. So that's the kind of sort of an overview. And because it is a geomatic thing, you start with these at the top and then you work the way down to the smaller parts, you know, and they all have a significance, and you can do a lot of analysis with these things. I have this book here, Astrological Geomancy, and it's pretty thick.
By who?
It's by Priscilla Schwei and Ralph Pestka. We'll put a link in there. And it goes through Fortuna Major in the 6th house with the sun, with the moon and Mercury, so that you can do an awful lot of astrology. Here's one of the ways of putting these things together that's in here. There's an actual horoscope that's created using this system. That's another way of looking at it as well.
The houses.
The
houses.
The houses, yes. So it's a way of representing the astrology of the heavens on Earth. And of course, in Ptolemaic astrology, it was done by the speed of the planets, and it's with a reference to the Earth. With modern astrology, we put the sun at the center, but in this system, it's not. It's to do with the speed of the planets. The fastest is Moon, and the slowest is Saturn. So there's a very so you have to look at astrology in Ptolemaic terms and forget what you know about modern astrology, because it doesn't work, you see. So, and actually the Golden Dawn actually used the Ptolemaic astrology in their system because it works better. I know Aleister Crowley wrote a book with Evangeline Adams, Liber 536, where it's a more modern uptake on astrology, and he uses Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in this system as well. But this is traditional astrology that's going on for 2,000 years, and it was designed to be a divination system and a magical system, and it entirely relates to the tarot. And we know this because this is where you have to learn astrology in tarot. You know, lots of tarot readers don't bother. But then how do you know that when events happen with Aries is March the 21st to the 21st of April? If you don't know your astrology, how can you make predictions, you see?
You'd be astonished. Most people go with their intuition. I've already noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big thing to learn. Most people know their partner's sun signs and their children's sun signs, and and things like their parents. You know, so we're not all born in the same sign mostly, so there's a bit of an overlap all the way around. It's not a big thing to learn.
And you know what's a very handy tool for learning astrology? Facebook, because you have all the birthdays of everyone you know neatly arranged on a calendar. So the day you want to start studying astrology, you go over the birthday calendar, and you can check who has which astrology sign, and you can make reference to how you know that person.
Is there a birthday boy around at the moment?
There's an old fart around for the moment.
It's Bart's birthday this week. And the only reason I know, he didn't mention it, but I actually forgotten. And then it came up, Bart's birthday, so happy birthday. So that's how it's brilliant for men, because we never remember these days. Women do. So Facebook is our bitch, basically, to tell us on these things.
Tell us when the wedding anniversary is.
Yeah, well, that's another story, isn't it? You know, that's your problem, not mine. So it's also about, we're going to go back into a tarot in a minute, but geomantic symbols are included in Liber 777, the Bible of the attributions because remember there's 32 lines basically, and there are two actual tables. Well, it's kind of three. There's a small one, Liber 7 powers, and in there the 32 bis, which is Saturn as Earth, is given alchemy, geomancy, making of pentacles, and in brackets travels on the astral plane. So it's quite a big thing. So this is the 32nd path, which is the universe or the world card, and that's the level of where geomancy is. And of course, Market is in Keter, so this all kind of connects up to Keter as well. So the higher is in the lower, encompasses the entire system. There are two other tables. There is one which gives you the 11 to 31 bis, which is the 22 paths of the Major Arcana, and it has the column 75. Not sure, CLXXV. My Roman numerals aren't very good. That gives the Hebrew letters, the numerical value of the Hebrew letters, and the Yetziratic attribution. Now, the Yetziratic attribution is astrology. The sun, the moon, and the Aries, and all these things. And they also include the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and spirit, because we had 32 bis and 31 bis as well. And then on the far column, we have the numbers printed on the tarot trumps, okay, from 0 to 21. So you have a similar chart in the Book of Thoth, don't we? Which is
yes.
Behind you, Bart. But of course, Crowley reorders the things to match his order of the tarot trumps. So you have to do a mental adjustment on these things. But the column that's interesting here is the one of the geomantic intelligences. And you'd recognize some of these names because we have Raphael, who's the archangel of air, Gabriel or Jibril. Muriel is another one. Michael is in there too. Cassiel, Hanael, Zamael. And so these are Hebrew names that correspond to the magical squares of the planets, so that their value comes out in a correspondence with that. So it's a kind of a made up name. So these are the geomantic intelligences. And then you have to look at another table, which is the linear figures column in Liber 777. And in there, it starts at the top with the circle and the points, and it goes into the plane and then the solid figure. That's all in the Sephirot, 1 to 10. And then it moves into the actual names of the geomantic symbols. So we have Puer, which means the sun in a lot of these Latin names, and Puer means sun, and that relates to Aries. Albus is white, that relates to Gemini. We have Rubeus in there, that relates to Scorpio. That would be the death card as well. There's Carcer, which means a prison, and that's related to Capricorn, you see. So there's two sets of attributions in Liber 777, primarily relating to the Major Arcana. They are the Major Arcana. He also puts in the lunar nodes, and he also says in there, Sephirotic geomantic figures follow the planets. And then he puts Caput and Cauda Draconis, which are the head and tail of the dragon, and the lunar nodes, nearly equal Neptune and Herschel. And then he says they belong to Malkuth. So he's mixed. So I mean, on the Tree of Life, if you thought of Uranus and Neptune, they're Keter and Hukma. Is that right? Yes.
And for the people who don't know, Herschel is Pluto.
Right. So he's, but he's explicitly saying they belong to Malkuth, you see, and this is where you get this Keter is in related to Malkuth. You've got the full system within there, even though it's an Earth energy. It is actually, if you think about it, because if you're doing astrology and relating to the movement of the planets and the signs of the zodiac in an Earth system, which is ordered in this way, then it is the union of the higher with the lower.
It is as above,
as so below.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's all very alchemical, and we're all on message here, Bart. Very impressed.
But I remember when you're reading a bit about geomancy, there is quite a lot of criticism on the stunts they did in order to fit the geomantic figures with the other systems.
With the who? Sorry?
Well, Golden Dawn.
Oh, the Golden Dawn. Yeah, it's there is a problem with some of the attributions. People, they say there's some shouldn't be that one, it should be another one. But the thing is, there's an actual divinatory meaning that goes with those trigrams, hexagrams. So it gets confusing. The geomantic symbols. so no one's really disputing what the geomantic symbol means in the divinatory sense, because you have a list of the qualities that go with it. But some of those qualities, they could be one planet or sign, there could be another planet or sign. So there is a thing, but it's so the list of the linear figures of the planets and etc. and geomancy, it could be that they are not quite right, but
who is there to check anyway here? Because
it's a kind of, there's a convention with all of these things.
Okay, I did read, like, geomancy is a very ancient form of divination, as he said. So actually, until Golden Dawn brought it up again, it was already almost forgotten. But Golden Dawn brought it up again. So a lot of everything that you can read about geomancy now is actually based on the Golden Dawn things, because the things that predate Golden Dawn don't exist anymore.
Well, it's all in Agrippa, wasn't it? Basically, I mean, they resurrected the Cornelius Agrippa's things and referenced a lot of things from there, because we did some videos earlier on the plane, the line, and geometric shapes, heptagons, pentagrams, and all these things, and this is part of the same system. And there is also, when you're doing magic, what you can actually do, because there basically is a 2 dot and a 1 dot, and it's a line and a dot basically. You can actually use those ones to create sigils, and we'll put a graphic up of the geomantic characters, as they're called. You can actually stylize them into a more artistic pattern or something, and you definitely would be using that for magical work.
The way you describe it, though, it sounds like Morse code.
Yeah, it is. It's dot dot dash dot dot dash dot. Yeah, it is. But I mean, us looking at each other is positive and plus and minus. It's 0 and 1. It's all digital. Mm-hmm. Everything comes from there. The entire internet, your computers, TVs, mobile phones, they all work on these principles of 0 and 1s. You see, so it's a fundamental thing. So when you're using the different 1s and 0s in different permutations and groups to create different effects, the Enochian alphabet is primarily related. The 21 letters of the Enochian alphabet that were given to John Dee and Edward Kelly in Elizabethan times, they also have geomantic attributions as well. That's even more beyond what we haven't done Enochian yet. We're gonna have to get round to that sometime, Bart. You're a bit slow on this. Come on, keep up.
I know, but Enochian is Ali, if you wanna be clear about Enochian, one film won't be enough, and neither will two. Eh?
Well, yeah, we'll have to do about Real 10 basically. You know, so
it would be a series of that.
That'll be an interesting one to do. You can also look at these individual geomantic symbols because there's 4 lines. You can see it in terms of fire, air, water, and earth. Each line corresponds to an element. And in terms of the body, the top line is the head, the second one is the neck, the third one is the body, and the fourth one is the feet.
Hey, but when you hear 4 levels, the first thing that pops to mind with me is Yod He Vav He.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah. So, so all of these things, but it's a different way and system of doing things. And you have to work within the limitations. So there have been 16 of them. And also some of them are actually, you can actually reinvert and they're still the same. So the one for Virgo, I think, is it to all the lovers? It's a line at the top, 2 dots and the line. That's the same way up or either way. And some of them you can reverse. Rubeus becomes Albus or something, I think, in the thing. So there's a lot of, you can relate things to different symbols purely by the shape and structure. And there is also a system of assigning strong, evil, and weak attributions to groups of these geomantic symbols as well. So these are the energies, if you like, and by putting them into this structure, we work the way down, and you can also place them into an astrological chart, and then you have to interpret that chart. I've actually seen it done, and I don't understand it myself, but it's a system that's valid and is useful.
Yeah, Crowley also says actually that it's a very efficient divination system.
I mean, it was a good enough system for thousands of years for most people who didn't have pens or paper. You could just dots in the sand, literally.
Hey, but I have something peculiar. I'd like to ask you what you think about it. You must have Equinox 1.2. What is it? Handbook of Geomancy?
Right.
Is it Handbook of Geomancy? Yeah, Handbook of Geomancy. You must have read that.
Yes.
Have you read what it says before?
I don't know. Remind me.
This manuscript is now first printed from the private copies of certain adepts after careful examination and collation. Blah, 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 blah. By the order of the AA, certain formulae have been introduced into it and omissions made to baffle anyone who seeks to prostitute it to idle curiosity or to fraud. Its practical use and the method of avoiding these pitfalls will be shown to approved students by special authority from VVVVVV or his delegates.
That's Aleister Crowley.
They put mistakes in here and they left important things out on purpose.
Nothing's new. It's been going on for thousands of years.
Does this make it useless then?
No, it doesn't make it useless. I mean, part of the thing is decoding and unscrambling those blinds and all the rest of it. It still goes on. And so this is why we're not particularly doing a in-depth kind of thing. So, geomancy does carry this warning. I was alluding to earlier that, there isn't an agreement particularly on what is the right way around for various things.
Yes.
But there are, I have sort of read books that claim to have demystified it and decoded the blinds and the errors that have come into all of this as well. So, it's something you have to go deeply into in order to get the benefits of. But it is actually going to connect you with the earth energies, which is a good thing because the tree of life, it tends to make you up in the clouds and a bit airy-fairy. So this is a practical system that people used to find out the usual questions of love, relationships, health, sickness, enemies, business, winning wars, all these kind of things, all the usual things that people ask. You know, it's the same questions they've been asking for thousands of years. Nothing much changes.
But if you look at all the different sorts of divinations they had in the old days, they looked at clouds, they looked at birds, they looked at the entrails of an animal, they looked at bones, they looked at anything could tell you the future. Eh?
Yeah.
Tea bags, coffee, well, they still do now, tea bags and coffee deck lezen.
Yeah, coffee great. Yeah, I mean, the Turkish are famous for doing reading the coffee cups. And the gypsies did the tea leaves as well. And but they're kind of more random, abstract kind of things. This is more of a scientific system, if you like. You know, you should end up if you end up with one of the judge or one of the witnesses with a symbol that mathematically you can't have, you know you've made a mistake somewhere along the line. You see, so it's very rigid like that. You see, so you know, I mean, it's like the arrow stalks in doing the I Ching and all the rest of it. It's very mechanical, and you just kind of do it, and you just and it just kind of comes out. So it's well worth studying, as I said. So actually, Crowley references some of these geomantic symbols to some of the tarot cards, and we have a list. Okay, so it's not exactly clear. We're presenting this thing that yes, Crowley put these in because implicitly they're already related to the Major Arcana anyway. Just because that's the way the system works, because it's astrology. It's another reason you have to learn astrology, you see. Learning astrology doesn't mean you have to spend hours and hours and hours doing charts and stuff. It's just learning the signs of the zodiac and the planets associated, and then the planet that's associated with it. And also you need to know really the ruling planets and the planets in detriment and the planets in exaltation and the zodiac and the 12 houses as well. If we're doing the opening of key spread, this would all be part of it as well, actually, because one of them is the signs of the zodiac and the other one is the 12 houses. So this is a bit strange. We're just going to present it. You can actually read yourself and do more research onto what the hell was going on here, because I'm not sure myself on these things. So what we have is the Prince of Cups relates to Carcer. Now, Carcer is the sign of Capricorn, and it means imprisonment, imprisoned spirits. So I'm not quite sure what Prince of Cups is to do with that one. It's
a good sign when it's about love. Carcer.
That's why you remember it, is it?
Yeah, I remember that. And what did it also say? Why does it relate to Prince of Cups? It says Saturn in Capricorn.
Well, Saturn in Capricorn, Saturn rules Capricorn, so I'm not quite sure when that's to do with the Prince of Cups.
Carcer. But also the geomantic figure of Carcer, Saturn in Capricorn. That's all he says.
Carcer is Saturn ruling Capricorn. It's not exactly...
Wait, but he says in the Yi King, it represents the 61st hexagram Kung Fu. And by shape, it suggests a boat, but also the geomantic figure of Carcer. So he's more making a comparison between the Yi King...
This is using the shape.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than the actual attributions.
Yes.
We've sorted that one out. So then we have the Knight of Discs, which is Conjunctio. Conjunctio is to do with Virgo.
That sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
Yeah. Then we have the Eight of Discs, which is Populus. And you can actually see in the arrangement of the symbols on these cards how they kind of look. So the Eight of Discs has 4 rows of 2, which does look like Populus, basically. But of course, the Eight of Discs is Virgo, and Populus relates to the waxing moon. basically. Then we have the Two of Wands as Puer. Well, the Two of Wands is the first decana of Aries. So having Puer there, Puer means a boy, is the right place for it. And Puer does relate to Aries. Fine. Then we have the Four of Cups, which has, it just has four symbols, doesn't it? And he also relates that to Via and Populus. Via and Populus both relate to the moon, the waxing, the waning moon, you see. Then we have the Five of Cups, which is Rubeus. So if the Five of Cups was the first card in your tarot reading, you'd have to destroy the reading and not do it until another day goes past.
Plus, Rubeus, Crowley must have had something really special about Rubeus, because there is actually two references to Rubeus in the Thoth Tarot.
Yes.
And he writes quite extensively about it compared to the others.
Yes, and he also talks about the Seven of Discs as Rubeus as well.
Yes,
Art's
and the
favorite card, failure.
yeah, and except for that, it's seven. He only used the shape of the figure of Rubeus because of it's the weight, how it means bad news.
Yeah.
For there is no other attributions to it.
Yeah. So he's actually put in one sign that if you get that, then destroy the reading. If you're a professional tarot reader, it could be a little bit of a problem. Cancel all the appointments for the day. Come back tomorrow, maybe. It's not going to happen. And there's one other one, which is Laetitia for the Nine of Cups. Now, Laetitia is, I think it means joy, and it relates to Pisces. And Nine of Cups is the card of joy. So he's relating that specifically to the name of the card and to the geomantic symbol.
I had my sister here. If she watches this film, she's hello. And we were on about bad tarot cards. Everyone's always on about death and the tower. And I says, no, actually, as well. I mean, they're small cards that are actually more bad news than these cards. I says, for example, the Seven of Discs with Rubeus. And next thing she says, what's my birthday card?
Rubeus.
Oh, it was Rubeus. So I just been telling her how bad a card Rubeus was. Next thing, this is her birth card. She's Taurus.
Yeah. Well, Rubeus is Scorpio.
And Rubeus, the Seven of Discs.
Seven of Discs is Rubeus. Yes.
Yes, and the Seven of Discs is in May.
Yeah. So you could actually do a reading of the 12 cards. If you pick 12 of the major arcana and put them into the, shuffle them at random and put them into the 12 things, you can actually do a
astrological
geomantic reading that way. And that'd be perfectly valid. You see. So it's an extra layer of things. And the fact that Crowley, relates these cards to the minor to the geomantic symbols in a method that's not entirely clear, but it's there because he didn't need to, because the major cards are implicitly with it, and just two of the court cards have this symbol as well, which it's just a demonstration of that you can do these things more than anything else, I think.
Excuse me, but if you do the system as you said with the with the whole shield form,
yeah,
can you have cards that come back? Can you have symbols that come back twice?
Yeah,
but then you can't have that if you do it with cards.
Stop nitpicking. I'm just. But if you wanted to do that, well, then what you could, yeah. But that's just the nature of, that's why it's a different system. It's a bit like, the sportsmen and sportswomen cross-train, don't they? They play, their sport is tennis, but they also play football or some of these other things because it gives the muscles. Otherwise, you develop certain muscles and not the other ones. So it's a good way of relating to all these things. And just the technique of relating things in different ways like this with the different energies. Foothark symbols, don't you?
Yeah, the runes.
The runes. because they're constructed in a similar way. You know, they're kind of cuts on the corners of stones in particular patterns.
Golden Dawn, have they ever looked into runes?
It wasn't really such a thing. I mean, it's a very Nordic thing, isn't it? You know, and you get it in Germany as well. There's a huge kind of thing with all that system too. But I mean, that basically notches and cuts on the corners of things in particular patterns. And you know, you can stylize them the way you can stylize the geomantic characters as well, you see. So it's there's a huge amount of flexibility, just based around this simple structure of 4 lines.
Nordic runes are also very good for creating sigils. Eh?
Yes, yes. That's the other thing you can do with this, is to create sigils from the geomantic characters as well. And the idea is that when you create a sigil, you abstract the whatever you have until it turns into something that you can't really see as the original things. Graham's very good at sigils, actually. We're actually going to do the Night Riders was going to be about sigils at some point as well, and Austin Osmond Spare. So we're going to talk about Kenneth Grant and Osmond Spare and all these other people as well. You see, so that's another legitimate system of divination and invocation and evocation, which you can do exactly the same thing with geomancy as well.
Yes.
Yes. Has that helped?
Yes, it has. It was very interesting.
Good. And, I do try.
It still remains a somewhat mysterious form of divination.
It is, because it is abstract. It's just lines and dots.
But it is one of the few divination techniques where actually a sign explicitly can mean something evil or something good. Like with the tarot cards, nothing is really evil and nothing is really good. Everything's a bit of this and a bit of that. Some of it
all depends, doesn't it, as to the context.
But
I mean, I had the Tower today in a reading, and I mentioned PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and she said, yes, I actually have PTSD about some particular thing that happened in my life, you see. And the problem is, of course, with PTSD, you're reliving those past events and bring them into your present, and by definition into your future as well, which is not a good thing. But this is the thing where you get into numbers. There were 61 and 16. 16 is Taurus, I think, isn't it? Or is it the Lovers? 16 is Taurus, isn't it? The Hierophant.
16 is Taurus.
The Hierophant, isn't it?
7. 16 is the Tower. Eh?
Yeah. But on the path, the Tower is 27th path, and the 16th number. Whereas actually, this is where you have to sort of mentally do your gymnastics around the system, because they're using whichever one kind of works. And we can see also with this that Crowley's actually using a kind of homophone kind of thing with the Minor Arcana as well, and also with the Prince of Cups to relate it to something else, you see. It's all legitimate, because that's the way the mind works, and that's how magic works, with associations.
And how weird it is, but it actually doesn't matter.
It works. It's an ancient system. The Arabs used it extensively, and it's all through Africa and in Europe, particularly in the medieval times. It's a very popular system, because you didn't need to do proper calculations to work out where the planets really were in the sky, because they take weeks to do the calculations. We just get a computer and you just put it on the web. There's websites, you just put your time and date of birth and the place, and it does it in seconds with interpretations. So comments below, and subscribe if you haven't, and like us as well. I've remembered. And we also have our groups, the Thoth Tarot group and Bart's one, and the links will be below here. And it would be great to see you in our Thoth Tarot groups as well, and also the websites too. And if you want a tarot reading, give us a bell, And hopefully we'll see you in the next video, which is we have no idea, but we'll think of something. We always do. Bye.